Hi, everyone. I'm Jillian Kinie with the National Survey of Student Engagement, and I'm happy to be presenting to you today the Career and Workforce Preparation Topical Module, Turning Your Plan into Action, one of our video tutorials as part of our Career and Workforce Preparation Workshop series. And I hope you've watched the other videos and done some of the homework that precedes this video, but I will revisit some of those elements and remind you about them in a moment. But I'm really glad you could join me here today to talk a little bit more about the important work that we are undertaking around helping campuses make better use of their career and workforce preparation topical module results. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So again, the subject of this whole series is Career and Workforce Topical Module, the module that we developed with support from Strata Foundation to really address the growing concern for students' preparation for the workforce and how well colleges and universities were helping students identify their clarity in their career plans, interest in students' use of career services and support and resources, and the extent to which they were having career-related experiences in courses. So the idea for this whole set came to help institutions determine the extent to which their students' expectations and interests and employers' expectations and interests about workforce preparation were being deployed on college and university campuses or as part of the undergraduate experience. So thank you for undertaking this module. We think it is an important contribution to the many topical modules that NSSE offers. And the topic is critically important these days as the skepticism about the value of a college degree rises, and as we all think about what should colleges and universities be doing to assure that students are employed post-graduation and that there is a more explicit link between what they're learning in college and what they will do later in life. So this idea that colleges and universities should be more career ready, I think, is a legitimate question that students and families are bringing with them into their college education. So this module is designed to help institutions assess that and make improvements where they deem necessary. So I hope this statement or this introduction, and of course your reason for choosing the topical module in the first place, is really about acting on your CWP, as we affectionately call them, data. So we hope you're asking yourself that question: is how are you acting on your CWP data? What we've done so far to help you get ready to do this at this stage of our workshop series is we hope you've had a chance to take a look at the campus action plan, kind of the foundational of organization of this whole series of work. And it goes into a lot of questions. Some of them may be relevant to you, some of them may not. So please use this as a guide in the way you see fit. That's the first piece that I hope you've already started to examine. The second is to view the previous module video tutorial on essentially its starter advice for exploring topical module data. We focus on the CWP, but it's really designed for any topical module. The third piece is actually getting into your data and spending a little time getting better acquainted with the reports that we produce for you. Certainly a great place to start. NSSE sells itself on the idea that reports are immediately consumable. So certainly taking frequencies out of this report, identifying where your mean scores are above other institutions, or maybe as a way to identify potential items that are concerning to you based on some mean comparison results would be a fine place to begin. And then perhaps you're digging into your actual data files a little bit more to maybe examine your results by student identities or maybe by different classifications or majors at your institution. And then don't forget about your student comments. Certainly lots of opportunity to learn about improvements that students are requesting by this comment. And you can see even illustrated by this comment that I've just elected from one institution where a student put a good suggestion forward as part of their final comments on the CWP question, open-ended question. So we hope that you've already been into some of these materials already before you're viewing this. And, just as a little more formal checklist, We hope you've reviewed or reminded yourself about your goals for selecting the CWP module. There are always certainly good tips and advice in there about why'd you choose this module to begin with. That will suggest what your action should be, of course. And then considering who your audience is for these results. The obvious audience is people who are working in career services, maybe people who are trying to reform gen ed to increase its practical value, maybe it's academic departments and programs, but really thinking about your audience and their data needs is a useful inventory to undertake. The other is just really examining your data. Is this a reasonable survey administration for you to act on? Is it too low? Is it not representative of students in your business school or one other body of students? But not to diminish the value of results either. So let's not throw away results. There's a lot of utility in the data you have. And then maybe you've also started to really conduct a little more data exploration to maybe identify some questions for your institutions, maybe that your programs are raising, or by student groups again, how are our students who are part-time, or how are our adult students answering these questions? And then finally, sorry for my blocking this last one, maybe you have talked or thought a little bit more about making some connections between your results and your interests. So maybe you've done that kind of mapping. We're interested in first-year students' results around their, let's say, clarity of their plans. Because maybe you're revising your first year seminar, maybe you could start to map results to some interest you have. All right, so that's the background work or the background thinking that I sort of hope you've already started doing. And again, we want to make sure that you're ready to take some action. That is the goal here. And I think the real thought here is turning your plan into action. And as we all know, gathering assessment data is really important. We get fixated on the quality of the survey administration or whatever it is that we're doing, but then we really stop or forget or somehow don't follow through with all of the important use of evidence to drive action. So that's what we're focusing on today. And again, I'm going to try and get you started on this and give you some tips about moving forward. So the first thing is I would like to do is inspire you with some real examples. And I'm going to go through 4 examples of data in action and see if there's some things that it might spark about for your work. So the first actually comes from a very lovely, complete example that's being enacted right now at Winthrop University. Their program called Flight Ready is part of their quality enhancement plan that's required by the Southern region, or the SACS accreditor, and they proposed a project called Flight Ready that involves the specific focus on career readiness, and they are designing more career readiness experiences in their first year experience programs, into faculty training, and to an alumni mentorship program. So they have used their CWP results to provide baseline data in their plan and their proposal for making some adjustments to all of these dimensions of their work, and have identified some learning outcomes that they have associated with a variety of forms of assessment evidence. So they have a signature writing assessment in the first year program. They're using the NSSE CWP Topical Module and an alumni mentorship focus group to learn more about the extent to which the outcomes of their Flight Ready proposal are being realized. And then they're going to use the CWP module as an assessment measure to reflect the extent to which they're seeing a difference in some of the experiences, in particular their first year students are reporting. So that's a very focused population from them. And then of course that the work that they're doing with seniors, or the upper division, really is around the alumni mentorship dimension of their work. So this is a nice full packaged example of using CWP results as part of a quality enhancement project. The second example also happens to come related to the accreditation quality enhancement project. and it comes from Midway University, and Midway is in Kentucky, and they actually make very specific claims about their career-based curriculum. And this comes right from their website, the example in blue, that shows that, or at least advertises that they are a career-based curriculum that prepares students for fulfilling jobs. And, certainly that's part of their career-focused liberal arts mission. And in that mission informed their decision to administer the Career and Workforce Preparation Module in 2022, 23, 24. So they've got 3 years of great data to build on. And these data is providing them an opportunity to assess the claims on their mission. So what they were noticing in their results is that there actually is a bit of a gap between the student experience and their mission, and thus the results were a real catalyst for their first step was actually to do some focus groups to learn more about students' experience and with faculty and staff as well. So after doing that, they decided that they too would undertake a quality enhancement plan as part of their SACS accreditation. And their proposal is to integrate integrate career units in 3 distinct courses. So again, kind of this progression from first year to senior year, and have enhanced their own curriculum by aligning it with the NACE, the National Association of Careers and Colleges and Employers, competencies, and then devised some assignments that invited students to make meaningful connections around real-world skills. So they use their CWP results as baseline and as a way to assess their mission, and then those results and that decision, that sense making, is informing their quality enhancement plan proposal. So a lot going on in the Midway example. Third example is a little bit more refined, and the example comes from the potential for using the CWP results, in fact, only 3 items, with faculty and anybody, academic departments that might be undertaking academic program reviews. So this is a way to feed some very specific data points into academic programs and to faculty. In this case, it's the 3 items you see displayed on the left about students' exposure to career-related courses. And I'm going to show you a table that comes actually from a NACE journal article that I worked on with one of our wonderful graduate students. And it's titled Exploring the Influence of Course-Based Career Experience. And the article includes some other things. But I think this table that's featured on this slide, table 1, really shows some potential for examining results by, in this case, major categories, the 10 that we identified on NSSE. You could do this with your own. Maybe you only have 3 or 4 major categories, though. And looking across majors, you can start to see that some of these practices, these career-related course experiences, are perhaps more associated with certain fields. So that might be an interesting conversation to have, but certainly one that maybe people who are working in arts and humanities might want to demonstrate at your institution, or might want to probe a little bit more around. So I could see some opportunities to discuss these results in the context of academic program review. How are students gaining exposure to career-related experiences, and does it vary by major? And then, are these differences expected? Would we expect education to be highest in terms of learning about a career or industry from practicing professionals, as it is here, or in the aggregate results, or should it be different at our place, given our strong career orientation? So I think there's some ways to apply these data and think about action within academic program review, or within just a group of faculty or a major area that might be interested in these results. The fourth example I want to draw, though, is actually a bit of a hodgepodge of several different forms of action. And the first is just the action that comes from sharing assessment results. And we have lots of examples of institutions that have shared their career and workforce preparation results with the entire campus. Maybe they've included them in interactive dashboards that can be queried. and people can pull their own data and information from them. But other times it's in meetings with key units, like let's share this in a meeting with career services or advising and see how well it squares with what they believe they're doing, and then maybe with their own initiatives for assessment. That's a perfectly fine action to take on results. But maybe you have an applied and engaged learning department or unit. Maybe they want to know a little bit more about how students are thinking about their career and clarity around their plans. Or maybe you want to know a little bit more about who influences their decisions about careers. And then again, academic programs, a main site for this, particularly those that have sufficient senior data to inform their efforts. So one is this kind of broad sharing of assessment results as a legitimate form of action. Another is, I think these data fit nicely in any sort of program review process. So whether that be an academic program review or a co-curricular or a student service like career service or advising kind of program. And it could certainly lend itself to be evidence as that in that kind of program assessment, also in a gen ed core assessment. If there's a revision underway or if there's an emphasis on career-related experiences, I could see how those data would feed those initiatives. The last example is really kind of an elementary aspect of assessment results, is just as treated as a needs assessment. So that could be just a broad way to get a sense of what is students' exposure to career and workforce issues on campus. It could also be used to leverage some grant work. So if you're in a state where career and workforce is particularly salient right now, maybe you could use them if your results are either low or there's an area that you really think you're strong in that you want to bolster further. You could use them to write grants and to make a case for the need for further investment. So I think there are lots of ways that action can be taken on these results. So those are 4 kind of big, broad examples. And I'll just, characterize them in a slightly different way by thinking about types of action on CWP results. I just closed with kind of a needs assessment, treating these results as a broad scan of needs on your campus. So, how much need is there around students developing career clarity in our first year? Does that resolve by senior year? That could be an interesting question. Maybe it's about the kinds of experiences they have. Are they going to career fairs? Are they taking advantage of internship opportunities or other ways of connecting with alumni? So it could be a really broad needs assessment. Program review, I've mentioned that a couple of times, that I certainly would be on the lookout for opportunity for action as any units that are undertaking program review. The other one, the third action, could be around marketing and benchmarking. We can all imagine ways that presenting evidence of the extent to which students are doing internships or indicating high levels of satisfaction with career services is a keen dimension to promote on your campus. So using real results, student results, and maybe even some of the comments to market your services and your successes in this. And then, of course, to distinguish your mission, as Midway is doing with their quality enhancement plan. They make these claims. So this would be evidence of the extent to which they achieve their mission. And then, of course, benchmarking against other similar institutions or maybe places in your state would be a way to identify some gaps. Quality improvement initiatives, again, I've just rattled off several examples within the southern region where that quality enhancement plan is a full-scale project, but there could be other quality improvement initiatives that these data could feed. Maybe if you're doing a first-year experience improvement initiative, these data could help inform that. Maybe if you're doing some more efforts for career-related curricular integration, these data could help feed that initiative as well. Certainly for accreditation, mentioned a few things, mission fulfillment, evidence of the quality of services. So if you see that more than 60% of your students are are taking the opportunity to take advantage of a whole bunch of career-related support services, I sure would put that in an accreditation report around the quality of services that are provided to support students in their ongoing career development. And then finally, again, around thinking about evidence for grants, for justifying the need for a particular kind of investment. That could be another dimension or a type of action on CWP results. So some broad things that I'm sure are on your minds, or at least I hope they are too. And then finally, I think the with a type of action in mind, you might then go back to, okay, what are my immediate next steps? If it's program review we're after, if it's a grant project we're after, it requires a different kind of question about data exploration and preparation. You know, what might you need to pull together that's specific to that type of action? And, kind of going through, okay, does that, if we're going to do a program review, you'd probably better have your ability, some capacity to disaggregate by program area. So it's useful to people by major. Or if you're really trying to do some assessment by student groups to assure equity across student audiences. Are our students in all programs or in all forms of modality having the same kind of experience in terms of career services? So lots of ways to think about how data exploration and prep might change based on the type of action. And then the other thing would be thinking about dissemination. So each of those types of action also suggest particular forms of dissemination. Needs assessment might be very specific to a broad group at first, but then might quickly narrow and funnel into specific audiences. So giving a little more thought to what is the dissemination plan given the type of action we have in mind. So those are some important dimensions to think about. And then finally, a single source of evidence is not your strongest point to start from. So I always believe that if you think about the career and workforce preparation results, plus a variety of different other forms, including, for example, NACE competencies, and if that's something you abide by or think about, NACE competencies and data that you have about students' development around those competencies would pair well with it. First destination survey, if you participate in that. If you're a handshake school, you have data about your students, you have data and reports from their network trends to play off of. Career Services has probably got some tracking data that you could counter with some of what students are reporting. So if you're seeing that Career Services is tracking a lot of use of a particular kind of service, yet your students aren't recognizing that in the survey, what's that about? Is it a mismatch in terminology? Is it confusion? Or does it suggest something else? Internship evaluations, so if whether they're done by your students about their sites and what they're gaining, or if they're done by the internship supervisors, how does that square with what you're learning and seeing in your CWP results? Capstone assessments, if you're a place that has capstone projects, you could see the extent to which students who get to do a capstone maybe have a very different career level of career clarity than students who don't get to do a capstone. Senior surveys that you might be collecting at your own institution, certainly completion data, adding retention or other forms of completion, graduation certainly, but if you have post-college outcome data, that would be great to attach. Alumni surveys certainly would be a great way to relate if you have alumni surveys that indicate high levels of satisfaction in current employment or the extent to which the institution prepared the students. You could pair that with some real NSSE data from your CWP to see how they square. Doesn't have to be at the student identified level, but could be just alongside to co-interpret. Two other things to think about could be what access do you have for focus groups? Could you use the survey results to launch some focus groups, or maybe do some, if you have focus group data, see how, again, that data square against what you're learning from your quantitative results. And then finally, employer feedback. If you've gotten feedback from employers that indicate students are accessing their employee applications in a certain way, maybe you could look to see does that again match what you're seeing in your results? So a couple things. One, I just want to remind you that your NSSE CWP data file is student identified, so you can connect it to your student information system or other outcome data. So I encourage that if you think that's where you're driving with your results. So lots to think about around pairing. CWP always works better if you can bring in some other data that either challenges it or even better strengthens it and provides even more strong evidence for what you're trying to explore. And then finally, as you think about, I don't want to jump too much into, post-action, but you'll want to think a little bit about reflecting on the action that you're taking as you start to undertake some action. How is it going? Are there some things that you really want to lift up, showcase some pride points in either your administration or your exploration or your dissemination? And then you want to look at who was involved. Did you involve the right people? Is everybody who should be involved in either thinking about results or using results? And then, just a few other things that relate to follow-up. How are you going to assess the action taken? And then to think ahead about what makes sense in terms of your next administration. But don't get too far down the road here with thinking about what your next administration is before you've actually taken action. So that's maybe my final piece of advice. And then finally, good luck on this work, and be sure and showcase what you've learned, spotlight the action that you've taken, and let us know about that. We'd love to help you tell your story of acting on CWP results. And by all means, if there is help that you need, or you have a question for us, or want to, again, showcase your success or help us or invite us to celebrate with you, please let us know how we can do that. So thanks, everybody. I really appreciate all of your commitment to this work and for using results. Thank you.